Keith Paints.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Keith Paints. Today, I am painting Orsic Frostbeard with this Dwarf Cleric model by Titan Forge Minis. It is part of their Titans of Adventure line, available through their Patreon. This video is also part of my Goobertown Roulette Season 2 entry. If you're not familiar with Brent over in Goobertown, check out his channel, it's really good. Links in the description. As per the Goobertown Roulette Season 2 rules, 2 Magic the Gathering colors have been randomly selected to act as inspiration for the color scheme. I'm using them as inspiration for a D&D character that I will then use as inspiration for the color scheme. Orsic Frostbeard's color combination is red and green, just like his adventuring partner, Tassel Tallstag, a human paladin. In that they both randomized to red-green, I thought it acceptable that one lean red and the other green. I found the green paladin build to be a little more compelling than the red, so Orsic Frostbeard should be a red-leaning mix of red and green. Red is represented by freedom, fury, and fireball spells, and gain their power from mountains. Green is about nature, instinct, and growth, and gain their power from forests. Red is easy enough for a dwarf. All dwarves are red by nature in that they hail from the mountains. Their demeanor, on the other hand, tends more towards white. Dwarven society is quite structured, and dwarves tend to be lawful good, so a structured society works for them. Not this dwarf, though. He is somewhat cold for a dwarf, earning him the name Frostbeard. He is quite apathetic towards rules and structure, and prefers to spend his time reading. He is still a good dwarf, wishing ill upon none undeserving of it. He just doesn't care for typical dwarven life. So the race was not enough to really fulfill either red or green. The cleric class has options for all colors, though. The divine domain would make a great white build. The knowledge domain, a great blue build. The nature domain is obviously a green build. And I guess the trickery domain might be a black build? Orsic Frostbeard is a light domain cleric. Look at all those fireball spells. So in the end, he was just a red build. I didn't really find any way to make him a little bit green. It will just have to come out in his personality. It may not say so on his character sheet, but he does have a deep love of nature. Being alone in nature, it's almost as nice as being alone in a library. Speaking of which, we come to his background. I built Orsic and Tassel at the same time, trying to write simple backstories and a reason for them to adventure together. Tassel is a paladin and has uncovered an ancient secret. She needed assistance, which is why I made Orsic a sage, which you might have guessed from all the book loving earlier. Tassel sought out Orsic and asked him to accompany her, to which he agreed. So, in making Orsic a sage, his specialty is in research. He has spent many years researching ancient civilizations. He spends so much time researching that he has ended up horribly awkward in social situations. He believes the path to power and self-improvement is through knowledge, not hard work and structure like other dwarves. He has been working his whole life to uncover information about one specific ancient secret, and Tassel Tallstag has showed up at his door with tantalizing knowledge about the whereabouts of more clues. He is easily distracted by the promise of information and agrees to accompany her, despite her telling him very little. Before painting, I had to fill in all the regions that the spray can missed. The first paint job, then, is base coating the jacket, because part of it is very hard to reach, the inside behind his legs. I base coated his pants with Xandri dust. Khaki seems suitable for a sage. I also hit the pages of his book with it, and the leather cover with Rhinox hide. Also made of leather are an old pair of boots and the hooded undercoat beneath his armor. The skin on his face will be hard to reach without messing up the hood a little, so I base coat it first with Bugman's Glow, as well as the rest of the skin. Skin based, I can come back and get his hood, sleeves of his undercoat, and straps holding on his gauntlets with Rhinox hide. I base coat his beard with Jaquero Orange. I don't know if you can see it, but I managed to get some white scar onto his eyes and little dots of Abaddon black for his pupils. I used lead belcher to base coat all of the metal. I had considered making the leather undercoat into chainmail by drawing many rows of tiny circles, but that would have been quite difficult and not contrasted as well with his armor, and leather will help protect him from fire spells. I painted his jeweled scarf thing to match Tassel's cloth. Maybe she gave it to him, but with his I cross-hatched it, while hers are straight-hatched. I base coated them with corn red and got the handle of his axe at the same time. At this point, let's take a quick break to paint the base. More than normal for this model, I base coated everything before moving on, instead of finishing one area before even starting another. The tiles get a base coat of Mechanicus Standard Grey, the leaves get some of the Incubi Darkness, then the tiles get more of the same grey but roughly stippled on, and then some Dawnstone also roughly stippled on. There is also a metal grate in place of one of the tiles, that gets lead belcher. Now that most everything has a base coat, I can shade the whole model. The armor, leather, skin, pants, and the entire base get Agrax Earthshade. I used Carroburg Crimson on his beard and scarf. I tried using Athonian Camo Shade on his jacket, but over the Incubi Darkness it did pretty much nothing. Next, I came back with Nuln Oil and gave all the metal a second wash. I use it on the jacket as well, giving a much better effect than the Athonian Camo Shade. I layered over the leather by mixing some Bugman's Glow into the Rhinox hide. I layered a little bit of Ushabti bone over his little rune and the pages of the book, though the pages of the book didn't really work too well. I also cross-hatched a little bit of Ushabti bone onto his khaki pants. I edge-highlighted his rune with some Screaming Skull. Cross-hatching went a lot better with this model than previous ones. I'm not sure if I forgot to grab my good brush before, or if I just got the consistencies right this time, but all my hatching on this model have finer lines than previous ones. I'm still not entirely satisfied with it though, specifically with the scarf. I think it's time for me to spend more time thinking about which direction light is coming from, and which parts should be brighter. I've really just been going by feel, I think, and I think it's time to step it up. For the scarf, I used my usual Evil Sun Scarlet, Wild Rider Red, and Fire Dragon Bright on just a couple of parts. I think if I add a couple stops between by mixing the colors like I have been for the skin, the hatching look might be even more impressive. It would just take more time. For his jacket, I had thought that Incubi Darkness was darker than Caliban Green, but it is really just a little bit desaturated. So I skipped the Caliban in the recesses and went straight to cross-hatching Deathguard Green and then Elysian Green onto the raised folds. Again, the line work turned out pretty well, but I feel it needed more colors. I'm not sure what the jacket is supposed to be made of. I wanted it to be green to match his color inspiration, but green should be a pretty common color of dye, so it should be believable enough. I used my usual layers and highlights for flesh. Bugman's Glow mixed with Cadian Flesh Tone, Pure Cadian Flesh Tone, Cadian mixed with Kislev Flesh, and then Pure Kislev Flesh. Orsic also has fingernails, which I painted with Screaming Skull. I edge-highlighted the tiles on the base with Celestar Grey and layered some Elysian Green onto the leaves. I layered Ironbreaker onto all the metals, avoiding the recesses. Then I edge-highlighted all the metals with Runefang Steel. I decided to use some Skullcrusher Brass to highlight parts of his weapon and his belt buckle. His potion is Caliban Green and Warpstone Glow, as are the jewels on his scarf, which I highlighted extremely poorly, but I was almost done, so I let it slide. His beard got a bit of Troll Slayer Orange for highlights, but it was still too bright, so I gave it an Agrax Earthshade wash, and painted the bands in his beard as leather with Rhinox hide and Rhinox with a bit of Bugman's Glow. And with that, Orsic Frostbeard, the fire-loving light cleric, is complete. I don't feel this paint job really stands out like some of the others in this series. The leather hood hides too much. But I'm still happy with it in the end. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And if you know of any adventure books that sound like they might fit to sell an Orsics adventure, tell me that too. Thanks for watching.